All right. So speaking of China Spring, they get 3-loss Decatur. And that's not to diminish Decatur. I'm sure they're a good team if they're sitting here playing in the state semifinals. Crawford and Mart face undefeated teams in Hawley and Burton. I am familiar with Burton. They are just down the road from my hometown of Brenham, Texas. So obviously the competition is always going to be really tough at this stage of the playoffs, no matter what division you're in. But which of these teams, Decatur, Hawley, Burton, which do you feel like represents the biggest potential stumbling block for our local teams? Who looks the toughest?
DJ, I'll let you have this one.
I'm doing research. Hold on.
Okay, well, I'll give my opinion then.
All right.
I think I'm going to pick Crawford, but I think Crawford is the underdog against Hawley. Of course, that's the rankings bear that out. Hawley's 2, Crawford's 3. And then you flip that around and Burton, Mart. I think Burton is the slight underdog, ranked number 2, Mart ranked number 1. And then I think China Spring is the biggest favorite of the 3, probably to get through. Although them and Mart, I kind of expect. I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I don't want to be hemmed and hawed at by some lady on the field again this week. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Chad that Crawford probably has it the toughest, just in, based off rankings and record. Although, looking at Decatur, those losses were all at the beginning of the season. So the team that they were back then is not going to reflect the team that they are this week. And so, for sure, China Spring is going to have to make some adjustments, I think, especially because they were given a challenge last week in that game, and I think they came out of it pretty well. They responded pretty well, but they are not going to be able to let their guard down for this week either. But yeah, I think Mart probably has it the easiest.
Well, I'm gonna jump in on Mart and Burton. Here's what I'm gonna say about that. Mart is Mart, and they're a machine, and I feel like sometimes we take their greatness for granted, like we just expect them to win. Now, last year, Chad and I were probably sitting here talking about Mart and going to the state championship game, and they got tripped up in the state semifinals, and it was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, we didn't see it coming. Burton, to me, so I was not surprised in the slightest by Mart blowing out Lovelady. I thought that was going to be a blowout. I would be surprised a little bit if this one turns into a Mart blowout. I think this is going to be Mart's toughest game yet. I think Burton is pretty good. I was telling Chad the other day, so I did cover Burton years and years and years ago when I was the sports editor at the Brenham Banner Press. And they didn't have these kind of football teams back then, but they were better in baseball and volleyball. They have built it up, and they've got a former Burton guy there, former Burton player, who's their head coach, and he's done a really good job building that program up. And I don't know. I just think that this is going to be a little bit tougher game. I think Mart does win it. I will pick Mart, but I don't know. I could see it being, it could be a 10-point game. I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
I think what we're seeing, what we saw last week against Lovelady, Brice, I think one of y'all mentioned to me that Hoffman said this might be his best offensive line.
Yeah, well, DJ wrote that story about the line,
right?
And of course they're the same kids on the D line, So,
well, and I think when they're scoring the kind of points that they're scoring, it kind of shows that they're really clicking, and that might be a big reason why.
Yeah, for sure.